Guys, I'm excited to share with you this information. A lot of things in this world are taught not by people that look like me. So one thing I've noticed, and I've come to the conclusion, is that whoever controls the present controls the past, and whoever controls the past controls the future. I want you to listen to this very, very carefully. This is an important video, okay? Which part of this section, the present, the past, and the future, are we controlling as black people? Okay? So why am I saying this? You know, there's been, I've watched so many interviews on CNN and BBC and all this stuff, right? That has focused so much on trying to say that Africans sold Africans. Okay? If you follow my videos, I don't believe the Atlantic slave trade was trade at all. It was an act of war. Our people were attacked, and ever since, you know, we're still in the dark ages. We haven't really recovered. We're still being controlled, being manipulated, all sorts of things for the past 500 years. You know, we are gaining some momentum, but we got a long way to go because our people's minds still going through a hard time, and there's so much information. We've been misinformed. There's so much misinformation, and one thing I've realized, that if we really want to understand history, we need to study. You know, if you can go back to the days of the Egyptians. There's a more like a tip where they used to throw most of the tablets. They wrote about their neighbors and all this stuff. When you read those tablets, they're not different from how we send text messages today. You know, it's not different. You know, so people really haven't changed much. It's the same character, same everything. You know, why am I saying this? I want you to imagine it's the year 2620, okay? And someone is telling the story about the Somali pirates. You know, because we don't control the future, and we are not controlling history. If we don't recognize this and do something about it, then someone is gonna tell that story, and they're gonna put black people or Somalis, black people, as barbarians. Oh, they did this, they were capturing ships. But you and I, who were there today, know very well what was happening then. They were just being used. The people who were making money were in Europe. The people used to tell them which ships to attack, and the ransoms and all that stuff, and big chunk of the money was going to the guys in Europe. The Somalis were peasants who were being used. They didn't even know exactly how big what they were doing was. And how did the Somali pirates end? When the people in Europe were arrested. Why am I saying this? Because I'm going to take you back to about 1530. Okay? In a place called Grenada, you know, the Christians are expulsing the Jews out of their land. You know, these are Europeans, and there was an agreement that was made to say, you know, the Muslims can stay, but then it was revoked, so they had to get rid of the Muslims as well. So when they got rid of the Muslims moved to the, you know, northern part of Africa, left Europe, moved to the northern part of Africa. In the coastal areas, which are known as the Berbers or the Barbary coastal areas, which are the areas of Algiers, Tunis, and Morocco. So those beaches along there, they are called the Barbary, which is after the local Berbers, which comes from barbarians, which was, you know, what the Romans called them. And if you look at the Berbers, they're dark-skinned Africans. They look a little bit of like they got a bit of a mix, but you will see an African when you see one. You know, we come in all sorts of different shapes, different color tones, and all that. Okay, so at the same time, these people were sort of expelled out of Europe. You know, obviously they're now angry. You know, the Ottoman Empire was also rising. Okay, So the Ottoman Empire decided to design something which even America uses today, where instead of the empire attacking a state vis-a-vis, they'll use a private person or a ship to do the dirty deeds, so they look like it's not them. And they call these people corsairs or privateers. So what the Ottoman Empire did was to make an alliance with these people who were angry at how Europeans treated them, to say, you know what, you do this, you give us a piece of, you give us some profits, and we are going to provide protection, but it's gonna be like in the shadows, in a way. Okay, I want you to follow me, because this is very interesting, man. This is very interesting, and I'm excited to tell you this story. So, what used to happen is they started attacking the southern part of Europe, Spain, Italy, France. They started attacking the towns there and capturing people. First it was just the ships, and then they will attack the land as well, and capturing people on these ships and selling them to the Arab slave trade, and the Berbers as well, the Africans, as slaves. So there'll be, white women, kids, and men to do some, labor work. Eventually, most of the people they would capture, they will convert to Islam, and they will change their names. But this business became so profitable, the slave trade became so profitable, that there was so much money being made, to a point where Europeans started, thousands of Europeans started converting, joining these the so-called corsairs, or if you want to call them pirates, which was just privateers. Started joining them. One of those people who was captured was an Italian man, known as who changed his name to Ulrich Ali. He was born. His real name was Giovanni Galeni. Giovanni Dionagi Galeni. He was born in Calabria. Okay, but when he was captured, eventually he converted to Islam, and he changed his name to Ulrich Ali. He became a prominent leader. But before I even go there, once the Turks provided security to these people, and realized they could make money from capturing slaves, the two prominent leaders were known as the Barbarossa brothers. Remember Operation Barbarossa? That was Italy. These guys were known as the Barbarossa brothers, who were Albanians white. So they got organized. This is before, I'm just going back, before even the attack started. It was these Barbarossa guys, Barbarossa brothers, who was, I think one was Heidelin and Ulrich. These were names, Barbarossa, who started the attacks. So white people in these Albanians started attacking these European boats. And eventually, because the money was so lucrative, people on the shores of Europe, they formed some connection where they will let the people, because the Mediterranean is not like massive, they'll let the people on the African coast of the ships that's carrying a lot of people, which was to attack. The same thing that was happening with the Somali pirates. Okay? The reason why I'm saying this, because I hear a lot about Africans, South Africans. This history is never taught. It's like hidden. White people don't tell things that embarrasses them. Okay? That's why you're never going to hear this story, but I want you to look into it. The Barbary slave trade. Okay, so the two Barbarossa brothers, one of these guys who became Ulrich Ali was actually captured by them and made a slave, who was Italian, but eventually he converted to Islam and changed his name from Giovanni Dionagi Galeni to Ulrich Ali. And he became leader. The Barbarossa brothers were leaders in Algiers. And he became a leader in Tunis. He made a lot of money. There's even a mosque that he built, which still exists, I think, in Turkey. It was an Italian guy. All right? So they made a lot of money. This became so lucrative. White people would leave and join, be part of North Africa because it was so much money. And then they go back and capture their own people. Okay? Once the land along the southern coast of Europe, people didn't want to live there now. They're living in fear, so they start moving up north. So this area became empty. What did these people do? The corsairs, they moved northwards. They attacked a city called Baltimore in Ireland. And then after that, they went even further north and they attacked Iceland. But here's the funny thing. The person who was in charge of that was a Dutchman by the name of Jan Jansen. His name was Jan Jansen. And he changed his name to Murat Reis, after he became a Turk. So Murat Reis, and he became quite big. He became a leader of one of a small town in Morocco. His son became one of the prominent landowners in New Amsterdam, today New York, from the money they made from capturing their own people and selling them. Selling them to who? To the Arabs and the Africans. The Barbary slave trade. I want you to look into this. But hear this now. Hear this. This man was not the only one. There was a lot of other European leaders who were in charge of capturing their own people, who were prominent, not using Europeans to capture Europeans. Some of these names were like Zeman Danseva, who became known as Simon Reis, and Ivan Devamboa, who became a Suleimani Reis. So what used to happen, they would change their names as they became Turks. They changed, they got like Muslim names, and these people became wealthy. But those were not the only Dutch people. Even there was an Englishman by the name of Jack Ward, who became known as Yusuf Reis. Yeah, he made a lot of money. When he died a rich man. They were capturing people from England, everywhere. White people capturing their own people and selling them. You're never gonna hear about this. It's not just those people. They're also Jewish corsairs, or whatever you want to call them, privateers or pirates. Someone was known as Simon Reis, and the other one was known as Samuel Parache. All these people made a lot of money by capturing Europeans and selling them. Europeans selling Europeans, for money. And they made a lot of money. This became big business. A lot of people were involved in this. They became so successful because a lot of Europeans joined them. And these Europeans that were joining them, they were coming with the knowledge of how to make ships and all that. And it became big business. The cities along the, Algiers, Tunis, and Morocco became very rich, from this business, which was slave trade. Europeans capturing Europeans and selling them to Arabs and blacks, Berbers. What used to happen though, Europeans started making peace treaties with them. But most of America, before Thomas Jefferson, a big chunk of the American budget was going to a peace treaty they signed with these people. When Thomas Jefferson became president of the US in 1801, he realized that the money that was spent trying to keep peace with these people, which wasn't working because they were still capturing Europeans. And just let me just stop there. Because a lot of you, especially African Americans, like to say, oh, but Africans didn't come to save us. Well, in this case, Europe couldn't save their own people. It was the Americans. And if you really think about it, people that moved to America, they were running away from religious persecution, from poverty, from mistreatment by the rich Europeans. So even them, they didn't have so much love for where they came from. But in this instance, they had to go and protect their people from being taken as slaves. Okay, maybe it's because they saw how bad it was in America, how they mistreated black people, and then they couldn't envision their own people facing that same sort of treatment. Okay? And the other interesting thing I picked up from this was the fact that when some of these Europeans converted to Islam, they were actually allowed to become leaders. But look at how shadow slavery that our black Africans faced in America. It was so perfect. Even if you became a Christian, you were not allowed to be part of the big population, of the bigger population. You know, so you couldn't become anything. Because they knew that once you do that, you could become a leader. So they perfected that. Okay? So when Thomas Jefferson became president, and one of the Suleiman leaders in the Barbary coast said, you know, wanted to increase this peace agreement money, loyalties, Thomas Jefferson said no. And that's when the American army was born. So instead of giving them that money, he invested into an army. Instead of giving it to the Barbary, and they started attacking them. There was 2 wars. I think one was in 1805, and then the other one a few years later. That happened. And eventually, that's how these people were defeated. And also the French came in and, you know, and colonized those areas, you know, Tunis and Morocco and Algiers. You know, so they changed the rules. And that's how this thing stopped. Even up to like in the early 1900s, this was still happening. You know, white people capturing white people and selling them. You know, I want every black person, please, to do some research into this. When you do your research, study it. Because remember, most of the things you're going to look at is not written by people that look like us. The reason why I want you to study it, because you can compare what you are reading and how people behave today. You're going to realize that it's not very different. Imagine 2620 and someone telling the story about Somalian pirates. If we don't control the future now, the story is going to be different. That's why you never hear about the Barbary slave trade. There's estimates like 1.25 million Europeans were taken, but don't worry about those numbers, just people estimating stuff. Could have been more, could have been less. Okay? But it went on for a few hundred years. All right, from 1530 to about 1780, or is it 18? Yeah, about 1880. So over 300 years, this was happening. White people selling white people. Okay, because I hear CNN like to put that there. Or black people sold black people. Black people. You've never heard this story covered on CNN or BBC because it's embarrassing to white people. Know thyself, guys. Know thyself. There you go. I'm out, guys. Thank you for watching my videos, and please subscribe. History Decoded. More coming. Goodbye. Love you all.